A number of new Ripple features are being released at the moment, and we are keeping a close eye on all the developments surrounding Ripple. Indeed, Ripple swell is rapidly approaching, and it is undeniably one of the most significant events in the cryptocurrency industry and, by extension, in Ripple's own history. Just about a month and a few days from now, that will be happening. However, that is not all that is happening at the moment. Important Ripple figures such as Stuart Alderati are involved in a couple other events as well. Attending FMQ later this week, presented by GU Fin Policy, is something I'm looking forward to. Excited to explore the changing digital assets ecosystem on the Innovating Through Cryptocurrency panel. Now, the thing that really gets under my skin is considering the people that are connected to this incident. We have the Chief Legal Officer of Ripple and the Head of Market Development for BlackRock right from the bat. Along with that, Robinhood has a Chief Legal Compliance Officer and a Corporate Affairs Officer. Along with CoinDesk, we have the Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund. Even though we've covered this ground extensively in regards to Ripple swell, it's funny to me that David Schwartz, a Ripple employee and the company's Chief Technology Officer, was the one to bring attention to this issue a number of years ago. He described Ripple swell as a blockchain-based company's version of a banking conference. It was at that time that we began to realize that Ripple is more than simply a blockchain-based company. In this realm, they take on an entirely new monstrosity. As an example, consider this event where the International Monetary Fund, IMF, Robinhood, and BlackRock are all present. When we consider this with Robinhood, BlackRock, and the IMF, what does Ripple have to do with it? This is the reason behind my repeated assertion that Ripple is unparalleled. Plus, we have more news from Casey Craddock, the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Ripple in the United Kingdom and Europe. While President Trump was in the UK last week on a state visit, I had the privilege of sitting down at a round table in Downing Street with UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves, US Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent, and representatives from numerous prominent financial and cryptocurrency firms in the US and UK. The United States and the United Kingdom might greatly benefit from working together on digital assets. Such a relationship could pave the way for similar partnerships in other countries. Ripple, a US-based business with a sizable UK presence, is in a prime position to use its extensive transatlantic footprint to encourage blockchain use in the UK, and so boost technological innovation and cooperation between the US and UK. The United Kingdom has a rich history as a major international financial center, and I think it could soon take the lead as a center for digital assets and innovation. The full economic potential of blockchain technology may be realized in both the United Kingdom and the United States through increased international engagement, such as the roundtable that took place earlier this week. Ripple is also excited to add to the conversation. In the United Kingdom, Ripple has always had a significant presence. I posted about this in August of 2023, but I went into detail about Bank of America and Ripple in a discussion that served as their proof of concept. While in the UK, Ripple collaborated with UK-based businesses on projects involving atomic settlement between two currencies, speedier payments, and yes, XRP and XRPL. However, many argue that this is irrelevant because it is old news when we consider it. The UK is currently in a race to regulate stablecoins in the hopes of spurring innovation in the country's digital currency sector. It brings to mind the recent piece by the Digital Pound Foundation titled, UK Risk Lagging in FinTech, If Regulators Don't Act Now, which was published on August 19th. The banker published an article by Infin's CEO on August 18th, highlighting the critical importance of stablecoin legislation that encourages innovation. Funny thing is, we were just discussing the process of creating this post. By the way, if you guys are interested in checking it out, I retweeted it on X, and it's also on the highlights tab there. I don't want to bother you with it again since we've discussed it so much in the past few years. You can look at it if you like. However, when we consider the broader context of this matter, it extends beyond the Bank of England and Ripple POC. The presence of Casey Craddock at this roundtable discussing US-UK collaboration on digital assets, Ripple's office in the UK, and their long-standing involvement in the country. The fact that Ripple published a piece in June discussing the obvious message from this year's Ripple UK Policy Summit, that the time to act is now, is also relevant. Policymakers in the United Kingdom should prioritize a growth-driven framework, take the lead on global standards, push for the adoption of Diplocoin, and remove obstacles to tokenization. It's interesting because Ripple seems to have a lot of sway over how these companies handle cryptocurrency and digital assets. It seems to me that Ripple is a major catalyst for a lot of the current crypto developments. Many people argue that Ripple isn't well known or influential enough. However, it should be borne in mind that Ripple was among the pioneers in the blockchain industry to be ISO 2022 compatible, or compliant if you prefer. Furthermore, among the first blockchain-based startups to meet with the IMF, the BIS, and all of these central bankers, Ripple stands out. The CPMI group is another area where Ripple and the BIS are collaborating. As previously mentioned, Ripple is not your average blockchain-based business. Many people hold the strange belief that Ripple is involved with the Bitcoin Maxi group. According to them, Ripple is simply another blockchain-based company that isn't making much of an impact, and they're peddling XRP, which is a fraud. For the past couple of years, that's all anyone has heard about Ripple. However, Ripple stands head and shoulders above the competition when we consider the data at hand. You know, Ripple is moving at a pace that very few of these competitors in the space can match. That being said, Ripple has also been working with these major companies for over a decade in the area. Additionally, we return to the subject of all the acquisitions, don't we? The Hidden Road one was massive, isn't it? So let's talk about it. A major one was Hidden Road. The magnitude of the issue is far more than what we were initially led to believe as we discussed it. There seems to be a pattern to a lot of these acquisitions. We've already discussed the one involving Rail, another fantastic acquisition and announcement that paved the way for RLUSD and XRP-related potential. I suppose I should rephrase that as a partnership. Next, there was the announcement of the cooperation with Securitize, which was the most recent one. This partnership is bigger than any of us is giving it credit for, you know. Everything was dissected by me. Although I covered every point made in this post, there are 2 video clips, one of which is from Securitize's CEO, that I would want to show. To answer your question, yes, CEO Carlos Domingo did meet with the Roll-Up Co. How important it is to incorporate Ripple LUSD liquidity with V-Build from VanEck and BlackRock. A huge win for XRP in the bank. Pay special attention. Indeed, Carlos. Perhaps you could explain this announcement to us today. You have already implemented this using VanEck. Could you tell me the backstory and the significance of this for Securitize? There is a divergence between the dollar track and the security track in the capital markets, which is a major problem. So bringing tokenized securities and tokenized dollars within the same ledger system is a big advantage of tokenization. As the leading issuer of tokenized securities, it is imperative that we form partnerships with the leading issuers of tokenized dollars. This will create a seamless integration of the two markets and ensure that our assets are liquid, which is crucial for their increased utility on the chain. Users will then be able to better utilize them as collateral for trading or to compose them with DeFi that requires liquidation. You must withdraw funds into stable coinage, etc., in the event that the collateral must be liquidated. In any case, you may be aware that Ripple, a major player in the industry, introduced its own stablecoin not long ago, maybe 6 months ago. However, the rapid growth it has experienced is truly astounding. Thus, it should come as no surprise that we are well acquainted with Ripple. They have been in constant communication with us since they invested in our company in 2018. I'm not sure if anyone is aware of this. However, I believe Ripple has recently begun to take steps into our space. You are aware that they introduced an expensive product. After launching a stable coin, they proceeded to acquire a prime broker. As a result, people started talking about how RLUSD could be a useful liquidity layer for RWAS. This morning, we announced that two of our tokenized treasury funds, BUIDL from BlackRock and BUIDL from Bannock, will be the first to gain access to RLUSD through on-chain liquidity options. See, this is something I find quite intriguing because it seems like, we have the names and numbers right here. My primary focus with each and every one of these acquisitions, including the one with Rail, is on ensuring steady coin payments, isn't it? We are mostly concerned with the use cases or the capabilities that this will enable. Through it all, institutional adoption has been our primary focus. Almost all of Ripple's actions over the past 12 months have focused on making institutional adoption possible. All of these deals, including the one with Securitize, revolve around assets held by institutions. Unlocking real-time liquidity for institutional assets is the primary focus here. Additionally, we would like to acknowledge subjective views with a great shout-out. Here we have Carlos Domingo again. We are engaging in tokenization here. With RLUSD, two of the biggest tokenized treasury funds can trade hands instantly, 24 hours a day. I would like to discuss some urgent news with you. Securitize and Ripple have enabled RLUSD, Ripple's stablecoin, for use in smart contracts with BUIDL and VBIL, two platforms developed by BlackRock and VanEck, respectively. Speak about it. In what ways can BUIDL and VBIL holders benefit from this integration? What is the difference? We used to hear from Ripple, who invested in our startup, that while they wanted to expand into other areas, including tokenization in the future, their current concentration is on cross-border payments. It has been a long time coming for it to occur. Looking at their growth over the past few years, though, you'll see that they've expanded into custody, prime brokerage, and the development of their own stable coin. Tokenization is thus an obvious progression for them to take. Here, they're helping us out by providing liquidity through the new stablecoin RLUSD. So, once this is announced, we will have RLUSD available on the chain so that users can liquidate their assets against BUIDL or VBIL and obtain liquidity instantly, bypassing the need to wait for market hours to liquidate treasuries. Also, wasn't that an option before? Similar functionality existed with alternative stablecoins, albeit to a lesser extent. Finally, we must ensure that there is an abundance of stablecoins and an abundance of liquidity.